it's calibrated by Iran, again, to make a point. They can use this video and the fact that they launched an attack on Israel for the first time.
Hi guys, welcome back to Elder Scrolls Online. This episode I'm streaming at the same time recording, very first time doing this, so let's see how it goes.
Iran wanted to attack Israel and have all of its proxies, the Houthis, as well as Hezbollah, strike at Israel simultaneously, you would see a very different picture than what we're seeing right now. Obviously,
let's see here.
There are a lot of unknowns here, but as of right now, this is unfolding the way I think most people have expected in recent days.
All right, so you talked about perhaps trying to mobilize the population, and the Iranian mullahs showing the strikes on Israel and saying, hey, look what we did. They are not particularly popular in their home country right now. I mean, the Iranian leadership is not particularly popular. It's hard to believe that these attacks would essentially get them anything.
Well, what it gets them, John, is it gets them the fact that they are able to say to their population that while we sustained a very serious attack on our consulate and senior Iranian Revolutionary Guard generals by Israel, that we retaliated by striking Israel from, or attempting to strike Israel from Iranian territory. They are able to say that they didn't just sit back and take that attack and leave it unanswered. So all of this is...
I'm back here now. I gotta backtrack anyways a bit and clear out the area. Right here's one. I knew I missed that church here too.
U.S. officials as well as Western intelligence officials who have access to Iranian thinking. They do not want a wider war. They do not want a war with the U.S. They want the U.S. to not intervene. And my guess is this is a calibrated response and that Israel is prepared and that the U.S. has ensured that Israel is prepared. What will happen next, we'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, there is a very strong missile defense shield around Israel, and Air Force is activated up in the air, and based on what we've heard so far, Israel's prepared, and the U.S. is there providing the latest and up-to-date intelligence to make sure that nothing gets through and that this is not this does not escalate or widen into a broader war or conflict.
Israel is ready for bear, it would seem. Jennifer Griffin reporting for us live. Jennifer, thank you. For those who've been watching that center screen, which is looking out over Tel Aviv, and you see that flash right there in the center of the screen, when I first saw it, I assumed it was some kind of a Patriot missile or an Iron Dome taking some incoming missiles. If you're just joining us, Iran has launched dozens, perhaps hundreds of missiles aimed in the direction of Israel. We do not know why it takes them several hours to transit Jordan before they can actually reach Israeli space. That flash in the center of your screen, however, is an electronic thing. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it is not a live explosion of any kind in the air. It's just a bit of the electronics that we use to bring you these pictures live. Let's bring in Jonathan Shanzer now. He is the Senior Vice President of Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and a former counterterrorism analyst at the U.S. Treasury Department. So how would you assess, Jonathan, speaking of defending democracies, how would you assess U.S. support for Israel on this very tense night there?
Well, so far so good. We're hearing the right rhetoric coming out of the White House. I know there was some tension about whether or not Israel should have struck or shouldn't have struck that senior IRGC official last week, but I think Israel had very little choice in the matter, and I do believe the Biden administration has come to understand that because the IRGC has been behind all of these strikes coming from the various militias, whether it's the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, the groups in Iraq and Syria. I would say that even more heartening right now, though, are reports that just came through from Al Arabiya, the Arabic news channel, just a few moments ago, suggesting that the U.S. has actually started to shoot down some of the drones that Iran fired in the skies over Iraq and Syria. This is, of course, good news because it means that they're being targeted before drones in, for example, Jordanian airspace or Iraqi airspace, which could trigger some complexities with Israel's neighbors who may not want to take part in all of this. So to have the U.S. do this with the coordination of Central Command of CENTCOM, I would say this is very good news indeed.
Do you think Iran made a bad gamble here, launching from its own territory toward Israel? Do you think that they somehow thought that President Biden's chiding of the Israelis to kind of back off in Gaza meant that there would not be vivid U.S. support for Israel in this circumstance?
Look, I think it was really a terrible misread on the part of the Iranians. The fact that the Biden administration was disagreeing with Israel over tactics in Gaza did not mean that the U.S. was willing to throw Israel under the bus as it relates to Israel's survival in the region or its overall strength vis-a-vis Iran or any of its proxies. So I think that right now they've made a terrible mistake by firing out of Iran itself. This has opened themselves up to attacks by Israel back into Iran for strategic targets. And that could include, by the way, some of those nuclear sites the Israelis have been threatening to strike, as well as other strategic targets that the Iranians would be loath to see destroyed. And of course, the Israelis have tech that would allow them to hit with greater precision and to be able to enter into Iranian airspace more undetected than I think whatever Iran is going to try to pull off here right now.
All right, Jonathan Shanzer. Jonathan, thanks for your expertise.
Pleasure.
So again, if you're just joining us, a swarm of Iranian cruise missiles launched within the last couple of hours toward Israel, said to be numbering in the hundreds.
There it is on the map.
And we do not know their targets. They apparently have been engaged.
I knew I forgot one.
US and
Here's one.
forces, and perhaps a number of them have been shot down. We will not know until head for their intended targets, and we'll see whether any of them are successful in getting through Israeli and U.S. air defenses. Let's bring in senior congressional correspondent Chad Burton. Chad, it is this week, right, that the Congress is supposed to take up an appropriations bill that would provide more munitions to Israel.
Well, keep in mind that the Senate approved a bill here that would Israel Ukraine and Taiwan back in the middle of February, as by House Speaker Mike Johnson indicated yesterday, quote, we're going to get the FISA bill done today, and then we'll get the next priority, but he never said what that next priority was. And I was talking to the Speaker about this, and he said this is a very complicated matter and a complicated timeline. Again, the pressure lately has been trying to get aid to Ukraine, but after the events of the Saturday, you can certainly see when people say, hey, we really have to get this done for Israel and Ukraine. Getting it done for Israel is probably a little easier in the House of Representatives, but by the same token, if they're going to have to do something for Israel, then they're going to have to do something for Ukraine. That's just the way the politics of this are going to have to work out here. Ken Calvert, a Republican congressman from California, has put out a statement the past couple of months here. This was an unacceptable escalation in the Middle East. People like Steny Hoyer, the former House Majority Leader, one of the biggest advocates for Israel in Congress, also weighing in on this. The other thing that this is going to bring into question is what the role of the U.S. troops in the region is right now. You have troops there with an undeclared mission. This is where most of the administration and what's called the counter-revolution of 1973 to justify sending troops overseas, and if this were to get into a bigger conflagration, what do you do? I mean, Congress has the authorization in the Constitution to declare war. We've only done that 11 times and haven't done that since the early 1940s against Romania. What they have relied on mostly over the past several decades, and this goes back to the Tonkin Gulf Resolution for Vietnam, are these AUMFs. AUMFs is one thing, but also what they've done is just the war powers that an administration is given. The Constitution kind of splits war powers in Article 1 and Article 2, and on the presidential side, what they've done is use some of these old authorizations for the war in Afghanistan and also for the war in Iraq, 2001 and 2002 Congress. Both of these, and even though they are in some other areas of the globe and other types of conflict, they lean on these as justification for receipt. So it's a little bit early to start looking at that, but there has to be something that's in the calculus as well, John.
All right. Chad Pergram, our chief congressional correspondent, senior congressional correspondent. Chad, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's check in once again with Jamil Jaffer. He is the executive director and founder at the National Security Institute, former associate White House counsel to President George W. Bush. Jamil, the Iranians are said to be fearful of a direct Israeli strike on their own territory. If that's the case, why would they gamble and launch these cruise missiles from their territory? It just puts a big target on their backs, does it not?
They're exactly right, John. It's a real question of why they decided to go down this road. The Iranians have made a long sort of history, a long career of using proxies in the region around the globe. They use groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, other terrorist groups, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, where they backed in the Houthis in Yemen and conduct these attacks. Everyone knows this, the Iranians. The president has called out the Iranians for these attacks on American soldiers many times. The problem is when they use these proxies, they are able to avoid getting a direct response oftentimes. Now they're putting these Israelis in the position of having to respond to them. It's an interesting decision by the Iranians.
That's all I got out of that one.
Whether in fact the Israelis do take a response and whether the U.S. backs them in that response and what that looks like. To be honest with you, John, I think it's all going to turn on whether these missiles are knocked down, how many they've sent, and whether it's a real serious attack. If it's a serious attack, and missiles get through and Israeli civilians die, as we talked about earlier, I think you will see a very serious Israeli response, and Iran has put themselves in a very bad position.
This is one of the most telegraphed attacks that I've seen in recent memory. I mean, the U.S. and Israeli intelligence officials have been talking for a week at least about the likelihood of this attack coming even this weekend. So it would seem like Iran expects some kind of a response. I've read where if they hit, for instance, the Golan Heights, which Israel seized after one of the wars, and it's not a huge population center for Israel. If they hit the Golan Heights, would that be considered sort of an acceptable strike that Israel wouldn't necessarily, pound Iran into pieces for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you're right. I think the Iranians must feel the need to respond, whether for domestic purposes or international purposes. They feel the need to respond, and therefore they've been telegraphing this for weeks. It's very odd. You don't usually see the President of the United States come out and say, I expect an attack within 24, 48 hours. That suggests they're getting either really good intelligence reporting, or the Iranians have telegraphed very clearly, now the strike is coming, be prepared. That allows the Israelis to prepare, allows them to knock these missiles down, allows the Iranians to say, we did something. We'll see if this is not a large-scale attack, or against, like you say, the Golan or another part of Israel, not the population there, not Tel Aviv, not Jerusalem. It may very well be the case that Israel doesn't feel the need to respond, and we just sort of move on from this. But I do think if a single missile gets through, if a single Israeli civilian dies, Israel will have to respond, and it will be ferocious.
All right, so, well, I had a question, and I just lost it. Again, it's a waiting game. We have to wait and see what happens, how many of these missiles get through, and where they are targeted.
That's exactly right. I think that is the key question. Is Iran trying to actually kill Israelis, or are they trying to just make a point that, hey, look, you hit our guy, he's a senior Quds Force commander, the commander of the Lebanon forces, we're gonna now push back and demonstrate to you that we're bad, or are they really trying to start a war with Israel? I think that question, that calibration, will be something that comes into play over the next few hours. We'll see, and we'll see how successful the U.S. and Israel are knocking out some missiles. As your correspondent there was earlier reporting, it sounds like the U.S. is already taking action. The U.S. has Carney there going after some of these things with their Aegis systems.
Jamil Jaffer from the National Security Institute. Jamil, thank you.
Thank you.
So Iran has launched dozens of drones in its first ever direct military attack against Israel. Those drones still in the air. They have not hit yet. It appears to be retaliation for Israel's deadly strike on Iran's consulate in Syria 2 weeks ago. Good evening. I'm John Scott, and this is a special expanded edition of the Fox Report. Israel will shut down its airspace for domestic and international flights about 30 minutes from now. An IDF spokesperson says dozens of slow-flying drones originated from Iranian territory. They are expected to take hours to make it to Israel. Israeli forces are on high alert and will sound alarms if and when those missiles approach Israel. Trey Yingst is live from Tel Aviv with the latest there. Trey.
Yeah, hey John, good evening. An unprecedented moment in the Middle East right now. as Iran has launched a direct attack on Israel, firing dozens of drones toward the country. As you noted, it will take these drones hours to reach Israeli airspace, and reports indicate jets are already shooting some of these drones down. Remember, Israel's key allies across the region, including the United States, said their commitment to Israel's defense is ironclad, and we do expect assistance from Israeli allies to ensure that many of these drones and possibly even missiles are intercepted before they reach Israel. Now, Iranian state media at this hour, John, is putting out what can only be described as propaganda. They say they've launched a new wave of ballistic missiles. We cannot confirm that information, and based on how quickly those missiles would reach Israel, we would expect sirens to be sounding in locations across this country, and that is simply not the case at this moment. What we can report, according to sources, Israeli officials are still meeting at this hour at the Kiryat, Israel's version of the Pentagon, just a few miles from where we are standing in Tel Aviv. They are trying to determine what the Israeli response will be and to get a grip on what the full scale of this attack really looks like. There is an understanding that these drones could target just military installations in the northern and southern part of this country, avoiding major population centers like Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. This may then draw a limited Israeli response, but we understand Israel wants to wait and see just how large this attack is, and if indeed the Iranians are trying to time the drone attack with a missile attack that could overwhelm Israel's air defense systems that are currently on high alert across this country. So again, this is really an unprecedented moment for Israel, a direct attack from Iran. We can confirm dozens of drones have been launched, including from Iranian territory, toward Israel, and at this hour, Israeli forces and their allies are trying to engage these drones and shoot them down before they reach Israeli airspace. John?
And it's our understanding that U.S. forces have also launched anti-drone interceptors of some kind, and that the U.S. forces are taking down some of these drones, which obviously is welcome news to the Israelis, Trey.
Absolutely. The Israelis need to know, according to sources we've talked with, that the United States has their back. There is an understanding on the ground that what's happening as we speak, John, could be the first of a very difficult chapter for Israel. If this response from Iran evolves into a broader regional conflict, and this is a very real possibility, given the fact that the Iranians have control over proxies in the region that also have drones of their own, cruise missiles and precision-guided missiles. We're talking about organizations like the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen and the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Even earlier today, and even last hour, Hezbollah was launching rockets into northern Israel. Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted many of those rockets, but it gives you a sense of how active Israel's northern front has been since October, when the war erupted between Israel and Gaza. The Israelis have been at war for more than 6 months now. This country has been on a state of alert, and when the decision was made by the top defense echelon here in Tel Aviv to launch this strike earlier in the month against the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, taking out 2 top Iranian generals, the Israelis understood that it could draw an Iranian response. But the response that is taking place tonight is something Israel has not seen in the past. It is part of the reason Israel's Home Front Command has communicated a message of caution to Israeli civilians. The Israeli government is trying to walk a fine line right now to ensure that Israeli civilians are cautious, close to bomb shelters, and prepared if this does unfold and unravel into a larger situation. But they also want to make sure they have the appropriate instructions. And as of this hour, John, just past 1 a.m. local time, the instructions are to avoid large gatherings of more than 1,000 people, and all educational activities have been canceled across the country. We do expect these instructions to be updated as this event develops, but this is very much an active attack that is unfolding as we speak, that right now involves dozens of
Missing one
that have
thing.
been fired from Iranian territory and potentially other countries like Iraq, from Iran-backed Iraqi Shia militias. And again, Israeli forces are waiting to see if some of these larger proxies in the region get involved. John.
All right, Trey Yeeks on standby for us in Tel Aviv. Trey, thank you. The large box on your screen is Tel Aviv. Nothing has hit yet. We just want to stress that. These cruise missiles are relatively slow flying. It's going to take hours for them to reach Israeli territory from Iran, where they were launched. And so until they land, we won't know how many they are, what the targets are. But obviously a very, very nervous night in Israel right now. So as tensions escalate, President Biden has cut his weekend short to meet with his national security team at the White House. That's where we find Jackie Heinrich. She's live with the latest there. Jackie.
Well, John, Iran has officially ignored President Biden's warning of don't that he expressed yesterday, even though at the same time he said a strike from Iran to Israel was expected sooner than later. Now that it is underway, the president made his way back from his Delaware beach house where he was expected to spend the weekend. He went straight into the Oval Office, out of reach of reporters. We have not gotten a statement on paper even from the president since all this began, but we have been hearing from the National Security Council. They've been sharing what the president is going to be doing here at the White House. We know that he's in the Situation Room this evening, meeting with the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the CIA Director, the Director of National Intelligence, the Homeland Security Director, and also the National Security Advisor and the NSC Coordinator to the Middle East.
Mercy, we
They
need
are
more
going to
time
be
before the
discussing
inspection.
what happens next with the Vice President
Dominion
dialing into
inspectors.
that meeting
Headwoman
through a
Harani
secure
requested
video
their
link
aid to stop
assess what is
smugglers.
happening and
We're
ensure
honest
that whatever
farmers
Israel
with
does
good
next
customers.
is proportionate.
Our
The
moon
US
sugar is
and
used to
Israel
spice
do not
food,
want to
not to
invite
brew
a wider war
skooma.
with Iran, and their
When the
messaging in the
inspectors
last couple
learn
of
we
days
can't
has
protect
been
our
aimed at
fields,
discouraging Iran
we're
from taking any
finished.
action that would devolve into a
Hairy,
further broader
squirmy,
regional
squeaky
conflict.
little
We know
rats
also that
have
the U.S.
infested the
CENTCOM
plantation since
commander
the
was
storm.
in Israel to
The
coordinate
inspectors will
closely
ask, if we
with the
can't
Israelis
protect our
on
fields from those
what might
dung-dropping
be
sugar
their
eaters,
response
how can we
to this
protect them from
Iranian strike,
skooma-brewing thieves?
because the U.S. was reportedly, the Pentagon reportedly
Find out
frustrated
why
that the
cinder-tailed
U.S. was in the
cinch
dark
tigers
ahead
roll on their
of a
backs instead of
suspected
filling their
Israeli
bellies
strike
with
in
red.
Syria
Does
that
one
took out
expect to
a
keep
top
his job
Iranian
if the
general
inspectors find
and
vermin in
spurred
our
all of this that we are
fields?
seeing happen right now. The frustration they had was that the
At
U.S. troops
best,
who were stationed
the
in the region
inspectors will
could be
recommend
put
our
at
moon
risk.
sugar be
And the president on his way to
confiscated.
Delaware yesterday was asked if he's afraid that any
To the
American forces
east,
are
the
going to be attacked.
plantation
And he said he's
burns.
always worried about
Was it
American
due to the
troops.
inspector's
So we have been watching
recommendations?
statements of
Who
support
can
for Israel's
say?
defense come from
Either
the
way,
White House.
Mistral will weep for our
Guarantees
passing.
that U.S. support
With
is
laughing
ironclad. We've
moons
also seen
gone,
that echoed from
skooma
countries
will
like
flow
France.
through the
The extent to which
streets.
other allies are going to be
When
helping
moon sugar
Israel
runs
in
dry,
its
people turn
response
to
in intercepting
smugglers. With
any launches that are
smugglers
headed
comes
its way. We
skooma.
don't have too many
But the
details right
inspectors aren't
now
from
on
here.
the
If
extent
we
to which
tell them, they
that
will
effort
not
will
listen.
be happening, and we are still awaiting anything from the president, John.
Find out why
Any
cinder-tailed
message
cinch
directly
tigers
from
roll
him
on their
on
backs
this,
instead of
John.
filling their
All right,
bellies with
Jackie
rat.
Heinrich reporting live
Does
from the White
one
House.
expect
Jackie,
to
thank
keep
you.
his job if the inspectors find
For
vermin in
more
our
on the
fields?
latest here, let's bring in Michael Waltz. He is the first Green Beret to serve in Congress, a former congressman and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I mentioned it earlier. I've been reading intelligence briefs for a week or more that this was expected out of
Killers?
Iran. Is this something you
Unclogged
expect?
blankets, more like.
Well, John, I think we
Want to
have
buy
to
a
take
carpet?
a
How about
step
3?
back here.
They aren't good
There
for much
is
else.
no other way to
Yes,
describe
Afe, even
the
you.
Obama-Biden
Do
Middle
not
East
eat the
policy
rats, this one says.
except
Do
as
they
a
listen? No.
dangerous disaster. I mean, this is
Lazy
an utter
cinch.
calamity. And in just a few years ago, under President Trump, ISIS was destroyed, Iran was broke and on their back foot, and we had the Abraham Accords. And look where we are
Already
now. And I
did.
think
That's the
fundamental
problem. Moon sugar
mistake,
makes
the
you
fundamental
sleepy if you eat too
underpinning
much.
has
Let's
been
eat
an
moon sugar,
appeasement
cinch eat rats,
strategy
and then
from the Biden
lazy cinch.
administration that's so
Especially
focused
you,
on
Giovanni.
what they call de-escalation that it is signaled
Not
to
with
the
sugar
region and
bellies.
certainly
These
to
useless
Iran
cinch
that
could only
they
kill
have
a rat
room
if
to
they fell
push,
upon
that
it.
they can achieve their
From a great
goals
height.
as the Biden administration continues
Go
to try to
inside,
appease
lock the doors,
and
wait
back
until they
away.
leave?
And that's been
No.
reinforced
Notice
by
one thing.
just last
Without
year,
cinch hunters,
we
what
refused to
could...
push the UN to renew sanctions on Iran's drone and missile program.
No,
Now they're
they
literally
would never
flying
do.
towards Israel.
Underbugs
We
nest
have not
nearby.
enforced the oil
They
sanctions.
defend their
90% of the
lazy
crude is
eggs
being
from anyone who'd
sold
make a meal
to
of them,
China.
yes? If you
We
grabbed
have
an
backed
armload of
away from
eggs...
our greatest ally, Israel, very publicly. And by the way, we spent the last couple of years practically begging Iran to get back into an Iran deal using Russia
as an intermediary, and the lead negotiator is now under investigation by the FBI for some type of traitorous activity towards Iran, it is just, the list is so long that Iran clearly thinks it can get away with this and sees this as an opportunity. And we have to have a commander-in-chief, John. November can't come soon enough. We have to have a commander-in-chief that our enemies respect.
Kenarthi kills the rats before the inspectors arrive. You're studying, yes? A little shot will stop you.
Feel like a lot of experts. October 7th massacre was designed in part to try to undermine the Abraham Accords, to sort of separate Israel
Wonderful.
from those Arab nations that have been reaching out toward it,
They're so very
either
tasty.
establishing diplomatic relations or perhaps creating diplomatic relations in the future. How does this, on the part of Iran, how does that change any of that, do you think?
Well, just in terms of this strike, it's still unclear, it's still early. Is this going to be like what Iran did after President Trump took out Soleimani, where they basically they knew they had to, for their own domestic populace and kind of their reputation in jihadi world and in the region, they had to do something, but it was basically a symbolic hit back. Is this a symbolic hit back in response to Israel taking out the IRGC in a consulate? Or is this the ring of fire that the Ayatollah has always promised? And this is just the first wave. The thing I'm watching is, do we hit city centers and civilian centers, or do those drones go after military targets? And secondarily, does Hezbollah to the north unleash its full arsenal? And its approach has always been to overwhelm Israeli defenses with what we call dumb rockets, and then followed by precision-guided that could hit critical Israeli infrastructure. I think that's the piece to watch overnight. Is this symbolic, or is this the ring of fire?
Michael Waltz, the first great boy to serve in Congress and as former advisor at the White House and the Pentagon as well. Michael, Congressman, thank you.
Thanks, John.
We want to bring in Adil Cohen, an IDF soldier who went back to Israel to serve. Adil, give us your thoughts about what is expected tonight. I mean, how these ratings will happen now that these cruise missiles are in the air. What should Israel's response be?
Yeah, so I'm speaking to you honestly as a former IDF reservist. I served since October 7th for 2 months, and now I'm actually on a visit to the States, to the local Jewish community here, and I'm following closely the news of Israel, got in touch with my friends and my family. We are all in very high alert.
We did
as
not
Trey
expect you so
said before
soon,
me.
Inspector Turner.
Been experiencing a state of war for the past 6 months, and we are alert, we are ready, we are prepared. I myself am ready to receive any message, any call from my commanders back in
But
Israel.
we have
In
nothing
any
to
case,
hide,
I think
Inspector.
when it comes
Clever
to, I think,
luring thunderbugs
Israel
out
should
of
do,
their mouths like
I
that.
believe
A
that we
scheme
need to
worthy of
first
Bandar himself.
look and see
They're all
what the
gone.
results of this attack is. I am sure that Israel
Excellent.
and higher officials
Our gracious
higher than me, at
inspector
least,
has been most patient
know
with us.
and
Perhaps
knows what to
witnessing
do and
your
are more prepared
ingenuity
than me.
will affect his
Well,
findings.
this attack changes the paradigm.
Joan
though,
and
because
Joe dance
Iran has
kindly
never
with you,
before
Walker.
attacked
Whatever the
Israel,
findings
launched
of
an
our
attack on
esteemed
Israel from its
inspector,
own soil.
we are in your
So
debt.
now that they have done so, I mean, the cruise missiles are still in the air. We don't know how many there are, how many will be shot down, how many will hit, where they will hit. But now that those came from Iran, would you expect your government to respond against Iranian territory? Do you want your government to do that?
I expect that we will see an attack from Israel on Iranian soil. Again, I am not a military official. I'm a relatively simple soldier in the idea
Will
of
you
reserve.
be staying with
I am
us
waiting
long,
for any call
Inspector?
from my commander. I believe that we can expect
As
in
long
the
as
next
necessary.
24
One can only
hours,
tolerate
few
so
days.
much
I do
fresh
think
air.
that we are there are a few difficult days ahead of us,
Truly.
not only in Israel
Then
and
we'll
Iraq,
endeavor
but
to
the
make
entire
your
Middle East,
stay
where we see that
comfortable.
several countries have shut down
Don't fret
their
over much.
airspaces,
If my
and we
duty
can see
requires it,
GPS
I can
shutdowns
tolerate
all over
such
Israel. So it's definitely
rustic
something that
accommodations.
changes reality. We haven't seen anything like that before in the Middle East. It's the first time in history that Iran attacks Israel from its borders. And I'm waiting, just like everyone else, and watching the news closely to see how things go.
We hope
How
it
was
is
your
not going to be
voyage
a
to our
significant
island?
attack, and we hope
You
that
arrived
Israeli
before the
forces
great
can
storm,
take out
yes?
maybe all of
Yes.
those cruise missiles.
We arrived in
Let's
Misra
hope
before
so.
it
Adil
struck.
Cohen. Adil, thank
I
you.
understand the rest of the
Thank you.
fleet was not so lucky.
So the Middle East
My
on high alert once
condolences,
again as
Inspector.
Iran launches a major drone
Kenarthi's
attack
price
on
is not
Israel.
always so
For the
high.
latest, let's bring in Fox
We can
Chief
only
National
hope she'll
Security
return
Correspondent
some of
Jennifer
those
Griffin.
she has
Jennifer.
taken.
John, as of right now, the Pentagon is keeping quiet but watching very closely. I'm told that General C.Q. Brown, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin are still at the White House meeting with the president. I'm also told that we have no confirmation as of right now that any ballistic missiles or even cruise missiles have been fired.
I'll
at
require
Israel. We do
accommodations
know
for
that
myself and my aide.
dozens, possibly
You provide
100,
them, of course.
attack drones, one-way attack drones, have been fired from Iran toward
Naturally.
Israel. I've
Will
just
you
gotten
be
off the phone
dining with
a
us
well-placed
as
source
well?
in the Middle East who tells me that the noise over Jordan right now is
That
significant,
will not be
suggesting
necessary.
that the Jordanian Air
Khajiit
Force
fare
has
is
been
too
alerted that there is a lot
cultural
of
for my
activity in the
palate.
skies over Jordan, and that Jordan will shoot down any drones or missiles that fly over Jordan airspace and violate Jordan's sovereignty. I'm also told by well-placed U.S. officials that the idea that the U.S. will just sit back and not help Israel is misleading at best. U.S. air assets in the region, as well as other assets, will be in a position to shoot down
Will you be
anything
staying
that is
with us
flying
long,
There it is.
closer to the air that they don't know where it will land.
As long as
suggesting to me
necessary.
that the assets
One can
that
only
the US
tolerate
has
so
on
much fresh
both
air.
warships in the Red Sea, as well as in Iraq and Syria,
Truly.
will be
Then
activated
we'll
and have been
endeavor to
activated
make
in
your
order
stay
to protect
comfortable.
Israel and to ensure that anything flying
Don't
through the
fret
air,
Okay.
drones, for instance, coming
If
from
my
Iran,
duty
if they can
requires
take
it,
a shot,
I
they
can
will take them
tolerate
down, I'm
such
told. Right now, the
rustic
president is still meeting with his
accommodations.
national security team. Plans have been in place for the defense of Israel, as well as, of course, Israel has a very, very significant missile defense system, as we've suggested. You have the Arrow defense system for ballistic missiles. You have David's Sling, which can deal with drones, as well as cruise missiles. You
How
have Patriot
was your
missiles, batteries of
voyage
Patriot
to our
missiles that the U.S.
island?
has
You
deployed
arrived
to
before the
Israel, that
great
Israel
storm,
The fuck did
has
I
yes?
find that
these
before?
assets.
We arrived
So as
in
of right
Misra
now,
before it
it's watch
struck.
and wait. But
I
am
understand the
told,
rest of the fleet
that
was not
the
so
U.S.
lucky.
military,
My
as well as the
condolences,
Jordanian military,
Inspector.
if anything violates
Kenarthi's
Allied
price is not
airspace,
always
suggesting
so high.
flying across
We
Jordan,
can only hope she'll
those drones
return
will
some
be
of
shot
those
down
she has
by
taken.
whether it's Jordanian aircraft or U.S. warplanes. They're taking this very seriously. They believe Israel's missile defense and Air Force can handle the situation, but again, all it takes is for one drone to get through that very significant layered missile defense, and nobody's going to take any
There it
chances. Nobody's
is.
resting right now. The U.S. military on high alert.
I'll require
across the Middle East.
accommodations for
Very,
myself
very
and my
dangerous
aide.
situation as we speak.
You'll provide them, of course.
All right, Jennifer Griffin.
Let me
reporting from
screenshot
Jennifer,
this.
thank you.
Naturally.
Let's
Will
bring
you be
in
dining
retired
with us as well?
General. Are we going to General? Yes, all right.
That will not be
Dana
necessary.
Petard is coming up.
Khajiit fare is
Retired Major
too
General. He's also the author of Hunting the
cultural
Caliphate,
for my palate.
America's War on ISIS. You know, it wasn't that long ago that we were reading horrific things just about every day in the newspaper about what ISIS was doing. You helped lead the fight that made that force into, well, a shadow of what it used to be. So you know this part of the world well. How would you assess the Iranian in deciding that for the first time ever they're going to launch attacks on
Will
Israel
you be
from
staying with
Iranian
us long,
territory?
Inspector?
Well, actually, it's a challenging situation.
As long as
I
necessary.
am surprised
One can only
that
tolerate so
Iran
much
is
fresh air.
launching these drones from Iranian territory.
Truly.
They have the
Then we'll
ability
endeavor to
to be
make
able
your
to do
stay
this differently.
comfortable.
Obviously, they felt strongly that they had to
Don't fret over
respond
much.
to
If
Israel's
my duty requires
attack
it,
on
I
their
can
consulate
tolerate
in
such
Damascus and the killing
rustic
of two of
accommodation.
their senior Quds Force leaders and others. They could have chosen to attack Israel someplace outside of Israel, because Israel's attack was not on the homeland of Iran. They decided to do something different and much more dangerous.
How was your voyage to our island? You arrived before the great storm, yes?
Yes. We arrived in mystery before it struck. I understand the rest of the fleet was not so lucky.
My condolences, Inspector. Kenarthi's price is not always so high. We can only hope she'll return some of those.
Such as cruise missiles from the Houthis, from even missiles from Hezbollah, who are all trying to swarm on Israeli defenses with the hope that something will get through.
But now that they have launched this strike from Iranian soil, I mean, no matter how effective it is, they have opened Pandora's box, and they are inviting an Israeli response directly on Iranian soil, are they not?
They are. It is a red line that we have not seen in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. Actually taking a strike the other from their own territory onto the territory of the other. We have not seen that before. And one has to wonder if Iran has checked with their allies, China and Russia, to get backing on this. It's a very dangerous situation.
You don't see a situation where China or Russia would involve themselves in this Israel-Iran conflict, do you?
I would hope not. Certainly support, certainly diplomatic support, even military support as far as equipment, even though we've seen Iran helping Russia with drones and other equipment in their war against Ukraine. So again, it's a very dangerous situation, but there's plenty of capability of the U.S. in the area. The U.S. has forces on the ground in Syria and Iraq and Jordan. If you look at the route that the drones are taking to get to Israel, they also have significant
I don't care to sail through corpses, but if I dock at Misra, they'll inspect my cargo, which is all legitimate, I assure you.
Pictures being painted.
Where do you need to go?
Israeli assets and U.S. assets.
I can take you to Vukhul. Bah, all my business here has dried up. At least I won't have trouble with the inspectors in Auridon, which rarely happens.
The Arab world generally despises Iran. It's hard to imagine what they think they are going to get out of this, except perhaps some domestic support from their own population. How do you assess the thinking that goes into this strike?
Well, I think there's other things behind it. Iran had to respond from the attack from Israel, just like they attempted to respond when General Soleimani was killed a couple of years ago.
But they didn't do much.
It was the largest missile attack against U.S. forces from Iran ever. And there were some significant hits. No U.S. forces personnel were killed, but there were some injuries. So that's how they responded there. This time they felt like they had to respond because not only was it against their Quds Force, some of their Quds Force leadership, but also the fact that as one of their consulates, a consular embassy is considered your own territory. So they have to respond for domestic audience because they're very unpopular in their own country. And they are hoping to at least get some support from other nations in the Middle East. And so far, that has not occurred.
Major General Dana Petard, retired from the U.S. Army. We appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more on this, let's bring in Aaron Cohen. He is an Israeli Special Operations veteran. So the drones are on their way from Iran. Apparently, some have already been engaged, possibly or maybe probably shot down. We don't know of anything striking Israeli territory yet. Just give us your assessment of this very brazen attack by Iran? Well, John, my immediate instinctual response as Iran
There
is
you are,
officially
Vestige.
declared war
We
on
must
Israel.
speak at once.
I can tell you it's a big mistake. Israel not only has
Listen well.
a lot of
I have
building up
located
in the
a
last
safe
6
harbor
months,
from which we might
in
plan
recent
our course of
operations in
action.
Gaza.
You must meet
Very
me
intense
there.
fighting there, very intense air
I awoke upon a
campaign.
sandy shore,
Israel's
a
eradicated
stretch
almost
of beach,
15,000
outside
terrorists
a bustling
within 6
city of
months.
elves,
The IDF is
Vukhul
highly
God.
motivated. They took
The
a little what they call
harborage
schnapps
is in a
or
seaside
combat
cave,
rest pulling out of
outside
Gaza.
the city. It
If
is
I had
there
to
that you will
venture to
find me.
guess right now, I would say that Israel's got several special operations assets that are in Iran at this time right now, John, and what they're doing is they're looking, they're creeping, they're
Donalon's
snooping. That's what
apprentice
these
is no true baker.
intelligence commando style units
This
do.
will
Shaddad,
ruin Chef
Maglan,
Donalon for
and
sure.
Israel actually lives, John.
Father
There's two
trusted me
major
and I
pieces for the
failed
Israeli
him.
survival. First thing is that actionable intelligence. So Israel right now is having a good look. They've got a multi-layered air defense system between the Spider, the Barak system, obviously the Iron Dome, which we've seen as the all-stars of the last Gaza campaign. Also in southern Lebanon, the attacks coming from Hezbollah. But I think at this point, Israel's had enough, and I wouldn't be surprised if Israel full out initiates some type of preemptive response that will directly attack those missile batteries and those drone launch points, which, if I had to venture, are coming out of the southwestern region of Iran. Again, Iran made a big mistake. Israel has a ton of intelligence on Iran, and to the Iranian leaders, I say, like they say in Farsi, which is not only is Soleimani within our reach, but every one of these military leaders is within Israel's reach. Every one of those missile and drone launch points could potentially get obliterated in due time. And Israel will move when it feels it needs to, and when it feels it's ready. They need to be careful because we've got multiple attackers about to square up on Israel. But John, it's not Israel's first rodeo. We saw it in 67, Syria, Egypt, Lebanon. Also had over 50 Scud missiles coming from Iraq at the beginning of the Gulf War. Israel's got a lot of experience in dealing with attacks from multiple countries, and this is just going to be another dust-up with Iran, and Israel's going to, I think Israel's going to put Iran in its place very soon, if I had to guess. So we have just about a minute left, but you don't think then that Israel is in any way overwhelmed or overmatched? The feeling is that maybe the Iranians thought that Israel has been weakened, perhaps, by the attacks from its proxies. You don't think that's the case at all? No, John, I remember having conversations with the media on October 8th, and everybody thought Israel was going to get wiped off the map. John, didn't happen in 48, didn't happen in 56 in the Midland Pass, didn't happen in 67, didn't happen in 73. After 20 years of fighting the southern border of Lebanon, Israel still didn't get wiped off the map. After that attack on October 7th, which killed 1,200 civilians, beheaded babies, raped women, kidnapped 150 plus hostages, we're still in those tunnels. Israel's still around. Israel is an incredibly well-oiled and intelligent machine that focuses on actionable intelligence. Their Mossad is one of the finest institutions in the world. Regardless of the mistake that was made on October 7th, Golden Miner said it best, we can't protect every inch of the fence. Mistakes are going to happen, but Iran's posturing. They're making a mistake. The fact is, the Iranian people, your last guest, the general said, the Iranian people don't support the regime. And at the end of the day, everyone is very much in line in the region to see this Islamic regime get toppled. And if Israel's going to be the one to do it, then so be it. But Israel's not in harm's way. There will be repercussions. Projectiles will fall into Israel, but Israelis, it's a warrior culture. Israel's going to be fine, and it's time for Israel to put on their war face again and get into tactical mode, which is what they're doing. Aaron Cohen, a veteran of the Israeli Special Operations Forces. Thank you. Thanks, John.
So, just catching you up, Iran has launched dozens, perhaps hundreds of drones in its first ever direct military attack against Israel, prompting the Jewish state to shut down its airspace for domestic and international flights. Our Trey Yingst is live from Tel Aviv for us. Trey.
Yeah, hey John, good evening. We've got a lot of updates for you here in this developing story. We'll start with a new directive from Israel's Homefront Command. This is the organization linked to the military responsible for communicating to civilians here. They are telling civilians in the Golan Heights, also in Israel's southernmost city of Eilat, and in some smaller cities and towns close to the Negev desert, to stay
Touch
near
me
bomb
again and
shelters.
I'll
An
take your
indication
finger.
that Israeli officials believe this initial wave of drones is going to target the northern and southern parts of this country. We also at this hour are reporting on a new statement from Iran's permanent mission to the UN. There was a post put out on X, and as we speak here, you can actually hear an Israeli jet going overhead. But there was a post put out on X by the Iranian government through their permanent mission to the UN. That post read that they have conducted the matter, saying it can be deemed concluded. An indication that Iran wants to try and contain their response to the Israeli strike earlier this month on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, that killed 7 members of Iran's IRGC. The question now is whether or not the Israeli government and military will accept this event as over. Remember, these drones have not yet reached Israeli airspace. We don't know the true extent of the attack yet. There is no indication at this hour, despite reports in Iranian media, that the Iranians have fired ballistic missiles. There are some other reports that indicate cruise missiles could be part of this attack. Once Israel determines just how broad of an attack this is, the war cabinet that is still meeting at this hour in Tel Aviv at the Kiryat, Israel's version,
Interesting.
will ultimately launch their response. We do understand there will be an Israeli response to this attack against their territory. The question is what that response might look like and what type of coordination is currently being conducted with the American forces that are operating right now out of the Middle East. John?
So, Trey, these reports that Iran fired ballistic missiles, those are coming from Iranian media. And so far, there's no absolute confirmation of that, because that would be a game changer here.
Absolutely, it would be a game changer. And it's important to note Israel does have the air defense capabilities to shoot down such missiles. There are a variety of missiles the Iranians have in their arsenal. The Shahab ballistic missile would likely be what they would use in a situation like this. The range covers all of Israel, but Israel has an advanced missile defense system called the Arrow 2, and also they have a later version of this system called the Arrow 3. Now, these systems have been tested, they are extremely efficient, and they have the ability to shoot down these advanced ballistic missiles. This system would be used by the Israelis if the Iranians ratchet up their attack. And if that does take place, as you've noted, it would be another step up on an escalation ladder that is already being climbed by both the Israelis and the Iranians. Earlier this month, as we noted, the Israelis targeted these Iranian generals in Syria. Go ahead, John.
Well, I just wanted to interrupt you for just a second, Trey, and I apologize because you're doing terrific work under difficult circumstances, but the video you're seeing on your screen right now is footage taken from Iraq of the Iranian drones actually flying over Iraqi territory, presumably on their way to Israel. You can see that the flame column coming out of these things is pretty significant. They throw off a lot of heat, and it's fairly easy for the interceptors to pick up on that heat signature and bring down these drones. So it is hoped that no matter how many dozens of them have been launched, perhaps 100, perhaps more than 100, that most of them are going to get shot down by some of those Israeli systems that you talked about. Again, that footage from Iraq, after Iran, for the first time ever, launched a series of strikes, launching dozens, maybe hundreds, of cruise missiles to fly over Iraqi territory and on to Israel. All right, Trey, let's get back to you in Tel Aviv. Sorry to interrupt.
And I'm looking at this
I
video
hear
here,
familiar
and
footfalls.
we should note
How
two
close
things.
the vestige?
There are reports that indicate cruise missiles could be involved
Welcome to the
in this
Harbourage
attack.
vestige.
And the second
This
thing
is as
of note
comfortable
here,
a home
when we
as an
look
old
at
dried-up husk
video
like
coming
myself
out
could
of
hope
Iraq,
for.
is the fact that Iran has control over
Despite my
these
blindness,
Shia
late
militias that
because of
operate
it,
across
my other
Iraq. They
senses
have
seem
been
to have
used in the
heightened.
past to
This
target
place had the right
American
smell
bases
about
in
it.
the Middle East. And the real concern is that these proxy
Indeed,
forces
but
will
let us not
only
get
be
ahead of
involved
ourselves.
in this initial
Without an
response
understanding
toward
of where we
Israel,
are
but could be
bound,
involved
every
in
road
any
will
sort
get us
of
nowhere.
escalating conflict
Before we
that
truly understand
unfolds
our
as a result
destination,
of this
we must
Iranian
speak of the past,
attack tonight toward the Jewish state.
of assault.
There is
I
a
invite you
concern
to enter
from
my
the
mind and walk
Israelis
with me
that
through
they could
visions
be
of the past,
overwhelmed with the
that
amount
you
of
might
drones
understand
and
the
possibly
events
cruise
that brought
missiles
us to this
that are
time,
used in this
this
initial
moment.
Iranian attack. And it's part of the reason that you've seen
Enter
such
my
close
mind,
coordination
Destiny,
with their allies,
and walk with me
including
through
the
the shadows
Americans,
of past
to
events.
shoot down some of these projectiles being launched from Iranian territory and possibly Iraqi territory. There are initial reports coming in, and I'm just getting this from
Excellent.
right now. According to 2 U.S. officials, the U.S. military shot down at least one Iranian drone that was headed toward Israel. Now, they would have shot down this drone with fighter jets that are currently operating in the Middle East. We also understand, according to our defense sources here in Israel, the Israelis have had jets in the sky all night, even before this attack started, in anticipation of the attack. And remember, earlier this evening, on the phone, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant spoke with his American counterpart, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. There has been a close coordination between
Hold on, old man. I'm coming there.
anticipating this attack would take place. The intelligence was correct. And when we talk about the war that's unfolded over the past 6 months in Israel, there's been a lot of criticism about Israeli and the American intelligence providers that they missed things when it comes to the attacks from Hamas and Islamic Jihad. They were spot on with this. The anticipation was high. It's part of the reason the Israeli society did not have runs on banks or grocery stores at a large extent. Right now, things are calm in Israel's major population centers, including Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And while there are these instructions from Israel's Home Front Command for civilians living in the northern and southernmost parts of this country, they are very simple instructions. They are asking civilians to stay close to bomb shelters at this hour, understanding that if these drones slip past the fighter jets and the air defense systems, they could target civilian population centers. But no one is panicking at this moment, and there are Israeli officials as we speak that are trying to determine what the Israeli response will be to this unprecedented event, a direct attack from Iranian territory targeting Israel. John.
Trey Yingst from Tel Aviv, live. Trey, thank you. So as you see in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, Iranian drones fired from Iran are on their
Follow
way
me,
toward
Destiny,
Israel, but
and
as
learn
you
of
see
the
in
events
large
that
box left of
precipitated
your
our
screen,
current crisis.
it is a very peaceful night in Tel Aviv. None of these drones has yet reached Israel.
My part in the story began when I awoke on the steps of the Abbey of the Moth Priests, with no memory of my prior
Forces
life.
are certainly looking for the others and hoping to bring them down as well. So
The
peaceful
Moth
in Tel
Priests
Aviv.
took pity upon me
Explosions
and
yet.
brought me into their
Very,
fold.
very
I was
big
left
step
in
by
deep.
Iran that could change the calculus of this of the tension. And perhaps
It was
lead to
there
a longer
I
war
first
on
set
all
eyes
sides
upon
of
the Elder
saying
Scrolls, devoting my
tensions are
life to their
escalating.
study.
President Biden has cut short his weekends in the White House. Jackie Heinrich
The
is there.
scrolls
She has
allowed
the
me to
latest
glimpse
for us.
the very fabric of reality. But each profound insight dimmed my vision and eventually left me permanently blinded to the light of the world.
His cabinet officials, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Homeland Security, CIA, National Security Council in the Situation Room right now. We are working our sources to
The prophecies of the Elder Scrolls are a fluid living thing. They are not fixed. At many points throughout history, the actions of heroic mortals have rewritten them.
Its mission to the UN.
I only know that you are important, Bestridge. The scrolls reveal to me that your destiny is intertwined with that of the Five Companions.
I just want to read you a piece of their message here. It says,
The Five Companions were a band of adventurers who sought out an ancient artifact called the Amulet of Kings. They hoped to use this artifact to persuade Akatosh, the dragon god, to accept their leader as one of the Dragonborn.
So we have reached out to all of our sources in the National Security Council, the State Department, and in the White House to try to understand exactly
The Dragonborn
what
are
this means here.
mortals destined for greatness, with the blood of the dragons in their veins. It is said that only a true Dragonborn can ignite the eternal dragon fires of the Imperial City.
The White House did call a lid at 5:15 when the president arrived
Baron
back here
Aquilarius, the son of
Delaware.
Colobian Duke,
What that
who
means
led
is
a
that we
rebellion
don't
against the
expect to
Emperor
see him
Leovic and took the
publicly,
crown
at least.
himself.
And that's
Alas, Varen was not truly a dragonborn, as those who sit upon the ruby throne must be, in accordance with tradition.
Is going to unfold over a number of hours.
You have already heard enough babbling from this old blind fool. It is time you met the 5 companions yourself and witnessed their fate.
Of what we heard from the National Security Council, which included more expressions of the U.S. unwavering support for its ally. We are also watching
The first companion, Lyris Titanborn, daughter of giants, was the mightiest warrior in the service of the Emperor. Next, Abner Tharn, a powerful sorcerer and Grand Chancellor to the Imperial Elder Council. The Red Guard Swordmaster, Sai Sahan, leader of the Imperial Dragon Guard. The Imperial Emperor, Varen Aquilarius, who attempted to light the dragon fires and failed. And finally, Manamarco, a traitor, the king of worms, a powerful necromancer, and your executioner.
So we're going to be closely watching the messaging that comes out of the White House. We know that both Israel and the U.S. are working hard to contain whatever happens
These were the 5 companions who set out from the imperial city on an epic quest to recover the lost amulet of kings.
It's clear that it stands by its ally and will continue, as Jennifer Griffin reported, to assist Israel in defending itself from these Iranian attacks. John.
That is a fascinating
Menimarco convinced Varen that the amulet could be used to perform a ritual that would rekindle the dragon fires. He claimed this would please Akatosh and entice him to adopt Varen as one of the Dragonborn.
Chad, what is the latest from Capitol Hill and the response coming?
By tradition, only the Dragonborn can lay claim to the Ruby Throne and rule as the one true Emperor by divine right. Varen conquered Cyrodiil and took the throne, but unless he became Dragonborn, he feared he'd always be thought of as a pretender. Each of the 5 companions were chosen for their skill and courage, and each was given a special role to perform in the party. Who would you like to know more about? You've already met Lyris. She's a Nord warrior from the frozen lands of Skyrim to the north, and it is said that her family lineage contains the blood of giants. Varen chose her for her strength and her loyalty to be his personal bodyguard.
But they didn't say what the next thing was. I have these upscaling of these
Sai Sahan came from a long line of Red Guard Swordmaster nobles. He was the leader of the Dragon Guard, the security detail of Varen and the Elder Council. While Lyris was Varen's bodyguard, Sai was charged with protecting the entire group.
With politics, especially in a presidential election year.
The Fans are one of those influential families in Cyrodiil. Abner, their patriarch, is the leader of the Elder Council, a powerful battle mage and a shrewd politician. With his council, Varen was able to seize the imperial throne years before. Menimarco the traitor, the great enemy, the most powerful necromancer this world has ever known. His worm cult infiltrates and corrupts every corner of Tamriel. It was he who convinced Varen to perform the ritual we were about to
Iran
witness.
has launched dozens of drones in its first ever direct military attack against Israel. The Jewish state
Disaster,
shut down its
war,
airspace for
and
domestic
pestilence.
and
The
international
world
flights. As a
brought to its
result,
knees.
Greg Yingst has the
Now
breaking
watch
news
and
live
see
from
how
Tel Aviv.
one man's arrogance brought about the greatest threat our
We're
world
following
has
some
ever
really
known.
developing stories right now. We can see air defense coming off of some areas near to Tel Aviv, flying through the sky. And when I look at and I'm just gonna stay with me here. I'm gonna look at where these red alerts are on right now.
The
There
dragon
are
fire
sirens
breach.
sounding right now in
Menimarco,
communities
you
across
certain this
Israel.
will work?
We
It
just saw
will
another,
work, my liege. The
some sort
Amulet
of
of
missile
Kings will
interceptor
rekindle
fired
the
off
dragon
an area
fires and
around
ensure
Tel
your
Aviv.
rightful
It
place
is
as Emperor.
unclear
You have my word.
whether this is David
It better
sling or
work,
the arrow
Menimarco,
system. It is
or you'll
not
find your
gathered
neck at the business
from this
end of my
location.
axe.
My lord, I wonder if
And
you'd
I'm just
muzzle
gonna
your
step out of the
half-giant
frame
pet.
here
She
and see
really
if
is
we
annoying.
can see any of these
Enough,
interceptors go
both
off
of
here.
you.
But let's just talk about
We are
what's
here to
happening.
ensure
There's
my lord's
a lot of
rightful
red
claim to
alerts
the Ruby
right now
Throne.
that are
Abner, Begin the ritual.
And reports
I have
of
a destiny
explosions
to
heard
fulfill.
near Beersheba. Okay, and right now you
By
can
the
see the
light of the
interceptor
dragon
coming off.
fires,
I'm
I
not sure if
claim
our
my rightful
cameras are able
lineage.
to pick that up.
By the fires of
But
creation,
that
let me
right
be
there
reborn.
is
By
the
the
missile
will of
defense that
Akatosh,
is
I
currently
proclaim
being
myself
used across Israel.
Dragonborn.
We're going to try to get more information on what exactly is being fired here, but this is a clear indication that some of these Iranian drones or missiles have made it into Israeli airspace.
The veil
The
between
local
Tamriel
channels
and
right now
Oblivion
that I can
tears and
see
splits
are
asunder.
airing
What's
footage
happening?
from inside
The sky's
Israel
opening up. This is
of
bad.
interceptions
This is
taking
very
place.
bad.
They're also on the right side of Israeli channels
This
in
isn't supposed
Hebrew.
to
They
happen.
have a list
What's
of
the meaning
the
of this?
cities where sirens
Man,
are
Marco, what have you
currently sounding.
done?
And so, again, this is a really
The
unprecedented
veil between
situation.
Oblivion and this
I
world
just
has
want to
been
confirm some
torn.
information
My
here
master,
before I upload
Moloch
it to air, so just stay
is
with me.
free to claim Tamriel for his
And there are
own.
sirens that are currently sounding in
Forgive
Jerusalem and
me.
Dimona. That is where
Have mercy on our
the nuclear
souls.
facility is for the Israelis. So again, a lot of developments right now. This is the initial Iranian response to the strike earlier this month that targeted 7 members of Iran's IRGC
The ritual tore the
in
veil
Syria
between Nan
at the
and
Iranian
Oblivion,
consulate.
allowing
But
Marco
again,
to
this
begin
attack is
stealing the
starting to
souls
reach
his
Israeli
master needed
territory.
to power the
There
dark
are Israeli
anchors
defense
and
officials still
initiate
meeting
the
at the
Tamar.
Kiryat, Israel's version of the Pentagon, just a few miles from here.
Akatosh gave
determining
Alessia
what
the
Israeli
Amulet of
response
Kings
against
as a
Iran
symbol
will
of his
be.
covenant with Nan.
John.
So long as the
Alright,
amulet
so
remained in the
very
care of
quickly,
Alessia's heirs,
Trey,
and
you
the
talked
dragon
about the
fires
arrow
remained
system
lit,
and David's
Tamriel would be
sling.
protected from the Daedra.
Those are designed to intercept missiles or projectiles that are coming in from varying altitudes. Do I have that
Manamako
right?
tricked Varen into breaking the covenant, and the veil between
Yes,
Oblivion
absolutely. So
and
Israel
Nan was
has a
torn.
tiered air defense
The Elder
system.
Scrolls
The
named
lowest
this
tier
event
is the
the
Iron
Soul
Dome,
Burst.
a system that was
It gave
used
Moloch
over
Baal the
past
opportunity to
190
disconnect the
days
souls
during
of
the war
man
between
from
Israel
their
and
hosts.
Hamas. This is a short-range system.
Varen was
It was
lost.
developed
In the chaos of the
in,
moment,
2011,
Sai-Sahan took
and
the
it is
Amulet
used
of
to shoot
Kings
down
and fled.
rockets from places
Leris
like
was
Gaza
captured
and
by
Lebanon.
Menamako
Then
and
the
delivered to
system above
Coldharbour,
the Iron Dome
the
is called
realm
David's
of
Sling.
Moloch
This is a
Baal.
system that is able to intercept
Tharn
medium
remains
and
Chancellor
some-
of
in
the
some
Elder
cases,
Council,
long-range
and his daughter
missiles that
Clivio
are
rules as
targeting
Empress
Israel.
Regent.
And then
But the
finally,
true
you have the
power
Arrow 2
remains in
and
the
the
hands
Arrow
of
3 systems.
Manamako
These are
and his
Israel's
worm
most
cult.
advanced missile defense systems. They are used to shoot
When I
down
discovered the
ballistic
truth
missiles,
about the 5
Shahab
companions,
missiles that
I
could
made
be
subtle
fired by the
inquiries, but
Iranians. These are
apparently
likely
not
the,
subtle enough.
missiles that would be used if they
Manamaka
take it
got
to the
word of my
ballistic
interest
category.
and
But
abducted
again, I want to be
me.
very careful
He
with
took
what
me
we're
to
reporting here
Coldharbour, where I
in
remained a
terms of the
prisoner
missiles that are
until you
being
freed
used.
me.
There's a major difference between cruise missiles and ballistic missiles.
The truth
And
is
so
always
far,
a
I've
threat
not been
to
able
evil men.
independently confirm
Manamako
that any
feared
ballistic
I would
missiles have
reveal
been
his
used by the
treachery, and if
Iranians.
knowledge
We
of
have been able
Nan's
to confirm
vulnerability
that a
were to
wave of
become
attack
known,
drones was
it could
launched from
threaten his
Iranian
master's
territory
schemes.
toward Israel.
Moloch
There
Baal
were
does not
also
favor loose
indications
ends.
that the
Walk with
Americans
me.
shot down at least one of the drones that was trying to target Israel. And there are also reports that cruise missiles were used
Long
in
ago it
this
was
attack.
written, so
But
long as the
again,
Amulet
I
of
just want to
Kings was
read a
borne
little
by
bit here
Alessia's
as we're
heirs,
talking, John,
Tamriel would
because
be
there are
protected
reports
from the forces
still
of
at this
Oblivion.
moment
But the soul
of
burst tore the
sirens
veil
sounding
between
across Israel.
worlds
And
and
again, we
gave
could see
Moloch
some of
Baal
this
the
missile defense
opportunity he
active
desired.
from Tel Aviv. There were
Moloch Baal's
interceptor
dark
rounds that
anchors
were
pierced
coming off of the skyline, soaring through the air,
depths of Coldharbour.
and headed
These
toward
terrible
the
engines of
projectiles
destruction
entering
peering
Israeli
all throughout
airspace. But the
Tamriel.
amount of sirens that were sounding across Israel indicate this was not an Iranian attack that was focused simply on military installations. And I also should note here, remember when we just covered this, John, Israel's Home Front Command only told people in the southernmost and northernmost parts of this country to be close to bomb shelters. There were sirens sounding
Lord of
in
brutality and
Israel's
domination
largest
successful.
city of
He would
Jerusalem.
merge our world
There were
and
also
his own
sirens
in a
sounding
terrible
in
plain
Dimona.
battle.
This is close to
Few will
Israel's
survive
nuclear
the ordeal,
facilities.
and those that do
Parts of the
will be
West Bank had
enslaved for all
sirens.
eternity.
Beersheba, Israel's third largest city. And these are still alerts that are coming in at this hour. Israeli
So it falls
channels
to us,
as we
Vincent.
speak, John,
We
are
must
airing
stop
videos
Moloch Baal
from
and his
different
dark
parts of this
anchors,
country
or
where
our
you see
world
air
is
defense defense systems that are
Now
active.
history seems to have
And
caught up
excuse
with
me for
us.
looking down
Shall
here. I
we
just want to keep you
return to the
updated on the
heartbeat?
information that we are getting
As you
in.
say,
Iran says at this hour that they've concluded their attack. The Israelis will certainly not see it that way. Israel is still facing fire at this moment. These alerts are coming in onto
And so it
Red alerts,
begins.
this is the system
The remainder of
used
the
to
story
inform
has yet
Israeli
to be written.
civilians
It is
of,
your story
rocket
now.
and drone attacks, and they are still sounding at this hour.
And
So
there is
we're
so much
talking
to
about
do.
hundreds of
But
thousands.
know this,
And
you will not
actually
walk
really
this
more
path
at this
alone.
moment headed to bomb shelters.
We must grow in strength
Israel
and in
as a
numbers.
result of this
You will need
Iranian
more than the
attack.
company of an
It is
old blind
ongoing
man
at
to
this
alter the
moment,
course of history.
and sirens continue
We
to
must
sound
assemble
across
our
this
own
country
group of
as
companions.
Israel's air
The
defense
first
systems
you have
are trying
already
to
met.
engage these targets launched from
There is
Iran
sacrifice
as
our
part of
own
this
freedom
Iranian
to allow us
response
to escape.
the killing
She remains a
of top
prisoner in
Iranian
Cold Harbor.
general
I must
earlier this
determine her
month in
precise
Damascus,
location
Syria.
if we are to mount a rescue.
It is about
That will
10
take
minutes
time.
till 2 in the morning in Tel Aviv, where Trey is
Minamarco's
working.
agents
Trey,
weave a
great
web of
job.
lies
Thank
into
you for that.
deceit. They pit
Hope
the
you get some
races
rest
of
at some point
Tamriel
tonight.
against one another and
We
divert their
have a
attention from the
statement
real
that
threat.
Jackie
Seek out these
read for
agents
us earlier.
wherever they
This
can be
is from
found
the permanent
and
mission
expose their
of Iran
lies.
to the United Nations. Kind
Forgive
of
me.
interesting place for something
Bringing
like
you
this
into my
to
mind
emanate,
seems to
but
have
here's what
taken
they
quite a toll on me. I
conducted
must
on the
rest.
strength of Article 51
I
of
will
the UN
contact
Charter
you when the time
pertaining
is
to
right.
legitimate
Until then,
defense. Iran's
walk in the
military
light,
action was in
misfit.
response to the Zionist regime's aggression against our diplomatic premises in Damascus. And it goes on to read, the matter can be deemed concluded. However, should the Israeli regime make another mistake, Iran's response will be considerably more severe. It is a conflict between Iran and the rogue Israeli regime from which the U.S. must stay away. Clearly, Iran does not want the United States to get heavily involved, and they are saying that this thing is over. So let's ask somebody who knows what all of this means. Let's bring in retired Army Major General, General Dana Petard. General Petard, when you hear that statement, what does it suggest to you?
The time is now.
What it
Seek me by the
suggests to
sea
me is
outside
that, first of all,
Vokal.
it's just not over. Because the drones are still...
Well, that didn't take long, bud.
...to flood the zone as far as Israeli...
Shit, I only made it to the corner.
I don't see why they are saying that except for possible deception. So that would cause Israel or Israel's allies like the U.S. to say, okay, it's over.
I have no idea what's coming up next.
Or they hit somewhere on the ground.
Played the main quest very long time ago.
So it is not over.
It is good to see you again, and I do see you in my own way. You're a wound in time, a tear in reality that shouldn't exist and cannot long endure.
We don't want to escalate. So let's see what happens as far as what targets are hit.
Fate speaks in riddles. Your fate was written in the scrolls long ago. It is entwined with the fate of the 5 companions. I have finally located Lily's progeny in Cold Harbor.
General, thank you. So the Middle East on high alert as Iran launches that major drone attack on Israel. Let's bring in Fox Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin. Jennifer, what do you have?
Well, John, I think what's really surprising right now is that we're already starting to see some of those drones being intercepted
She works
by
a terrible
Israel's
forge
significant
under the
missile
lash of
defense
the great
systems.
deceiver,
What's
Moloch Baal.
unusual and what I've
Her
never
soul is
seen
in great
before
danger.
is for
You
those
must go
missile
to her.
defense systems to
I
be
can manifest a gate
engaged
to that
over
dark
Jerusalem.
realm,
That suggests
but you
that
must
the
go
drones
quickly.
are flying or in the air near Jerusalem. Typically in the past,
Tread carefully
prior
in
to now,
Moloch
in the
Baal's
past when
realm.
Saddam
You are
Hussein, for
important.
instance,
The
fired
scrolls have
missiles
so named
at
you.
Israel, it was largely believed that no outside country,
After
Arab
Lyris took my
or,
place in the
Egypt
wailing
or
prison so
Iranian,
that we
would
might escape,
fire missiles
the Daedra moved her
near
to the foundry
Jerusalem
of
for
woe.
fear of hitting the
It is a place
Al-Aqsa
of torment
Mosque.
and
So the
despair.
fact that you
She
see the
toils
night sky now
endlessly
lighting
making
up over
weapons for the
Jerusalem
enemy.
with the missile defense intercepting some of those
The god of
drones,
schemes
which
invaded my
clearly
mind
have
many
gotten
times during
close
my
enough
imprisonment.
and into
It was a
Israeli
torturous
airspace. That
experience, but
suggests
by forcing his
also
way into my
a
mind,
very
he
risky move by
inadvertently
Iran,
opened
the
his own
fact that they are
thoughts to
sending
me,
drones
and thus created
over
a chink
Jerusalem
in his
tonight.
own armor.
You also heard from Trey Yingst, who is in
We
Tel
are
Aviv.
connected here now.
He has seen
With
some of that
concentration,
missile defense
I can see
system.
through
Let's
his
remind
eyes.
our viewers
He feels
of
my
the
presence,
layers
and
of
it
missile
fills
defense
him with
that the U.S. has
rage.
helped Israel put
When
in
you
place
enter the
over the years.
foundry
You
to
have
recover Lyris,
not only Patriot
I can
missile
keep his attention
batteries, but
focused
you
on me.
also have
He will
the
be
Arrow
blind
missile
to
defense
you
system.
for a
That would be
time.
something that would be employed for ballistic
It will be a far
missiles if
greater
they were
danger
fired.
for
We
you
have
to
no
enter Cold
evidence as
Harbor
of right
without
now,
this
and no
distraction.
confirmation from
It
the
is
Pentagon
Moloch
or
Baal's
others that
realm.
ballistic missiles have
His
been
power
fired at
there is
Israel from
great.
Iran. There
I will
are
endeavor
reports
to
from the IDF
distract
that
him from
cruise
this
missiles,
matter
which fly
whenever you
much
travel
slower,
there.
may have been launched, but the Pentagon at this point can only confirm that these waves of drones have been fired toward Israel. We can confirm, based on our reporting, that a U.S. official told us that at least one Iranian drone has been shot down by the U.S. military. Those would likely have been air assets that would have been involved in shooting down at least one Iranian drone, possibly more. We also have learned that the Jordanian Air Force will intercept anything that flies through Jordanian airspace. They are very busy tonight over Jordan, which is, of course, just right next door and a stone's throw from Jerusalem. As we also can report, based on my conversations with British officials, the UK is not involved
And he's
in
still alive.
shooting down any of
Thank
these
the
drones.
gods.
The
But
UK
you-
has not deployed
can't
any
stay.
air assets
You have to
to
leave
Israel,
before they
despite
find
some
you here.
reporting that we've seen
You don't
on
understand.
the internet suggesting as much, but
done
I'm told that the
something to
UK
me.
has not
I
deployed
can't
assets
leave.
over Israel.
It's hard to
That
describe.
most likely
My
is
memories,
because
my feelings, they've
right now the
been
U.S. and
fragmented,
Jordan are engaged
ripped apart,
in any sort of air
and all the
defense.
fragmented pieces have been
Before those
locked
drones
away
can
in
get to
different parts of the
Israeli
foundry.
airspace, they would be trying to intercept
Pride.
those drones coming
The Daedra
from
took
Iran.
everything.
Jennifer Griffin, our chief national
Willpower, my
security
courage,
correspondent there at the Pentagon.
my
Jennifer,
sense of
thank
self.
you. Just so
I'm meant
our
to
viewers
shout.
know, on the right of your screen
And
are
the fragments are
images
reflections
which
of
have
my
been
worst
released
fears
from
and most
Iran,
painful memories.
reportedly of Iranian
Can't I-
citizens celebrating
I don't
this
think I
attack
can
on Israel,
face
this
them.
first ever attack on Israel
I'll do my
from
best.
Iranian soil.
Lead on.
Now, there is speculation that the mullahs who run that country, who are not particularly popular, I might say, are trying to stoke native enthusiasm by trying to give Israel a black eye. Whether that is ultimately successful or not is yet to be seen. But I just wanted to put this picture up there so you can see what's coming out of Iran. More on all of this, let's bring in Aaron, Special Operations veteran. We just have a minute or two left. Aaron, give us your thoughts as you hear what's going on in Israel and the Iranian propaganda.
Well, like your last guest, the general was saying, it sounds like Iran's on its knees. It sounds
Lost
like
souls
they're,
are barely aware of their humanity.
It's almost as if it sounds like they don't want to really escalate. This is really just a tit for tat on taking out the targeted assassination at the Syrian consul. They took out that general, and I feel like Iran has just gotten way below the tape this point right now. John, the Middle East is tired of Iran. Israel's going to end up doing everybody's homework for them. The people of Iran are tired of the Islamic regime. This regime murders women for not wearing the chador, like they say in Farsi, or the hijab in Arabic. This essentially Iran's been a monster, metaphoric hostage siege for the last 40 plus years. They really don't represent the Iranian people, which are good people.
Home in Skyrim.
You
My
can see
parents'
evidence of
graves.
that through open source information.
My mother
that's
died in
passed around on
childbirth.
Twitter.
My
I've
father
got
was
dozens of
distant,
emails from
cold.
Iranian nationals saying, hey, we don't
I think he
support the
blamed
regime.
me for my mother's
But the
death.
fact is
I
that
ran off to
Iran
become a
has
mercenary when I was
unofficially
16.
declared war on Israel. Israel's going to
Never saw my
respond
father again.
aggressively, and
He
they're
was
going
murdered by an old
to
enemy.
take care of business. They're going to do it swiftly. Israel's
Father?
not playing around this one, John.
Aaron Cohen, a special operations
you?
veteran of the Israeli Defense Forces. Thanks for sharing your expertise tonight. So the missiles are still in the air, still on their way, but the suggestion, at least from the Iranian side, is that this may be the end of it. Let's hope so. That's how Fox reports on this Saturday, the 14th of April, 2024. I'm sorry, it's the 13th.
Your mind and soul are already ours. Abandon your pathetic rest.
Who are you? Why does Lyris walk with you? In life, I was Yalda, father to Lyris. My spirit was torn from its rest and brought to this foul place. The Daedra forced me to experience my own murder again and again. I thought my torment would never end.
Latest, Trey, we understand the U.S. has been responding to these missiles, and that is a possibility that some of these Iranian drones may have made it into Israeli
Lyris was
airspace.
always a free spirit. Why would my presence bind her
Good
here?
evening. Fox News can confirm that a massive drone and missile attack is unfolding
Lyris,
right now.
is this true, child?
Launched by Iran. It is taking place as we speak. Sirens continue.
My mother died giving me life.
In Jerusalem,
It was my fault. I should never have been born.
Lyris, look at me. The blood of giants flows through my veins. Your mother was a knight. I gave her my secret. I fought for her safety. That's why she died. Not because of you.
Military has confirmed
I
that
thought you
missiles
blamed
are
me.
being used by the Iranians. We've not been able to
Couldn't
get
you look at me, Papa?
Do you not see? When I looked at you, I saw her face.
But this is
I
a
loved
developing
her.
story that
Just
will
as I
risk
love you,
dragging
more
the
than
region
life
into a
itself.
much broader conflict.
Do not
Just a
change
few
the
minutes
past,
ago, behind
nor
us,
should we
we could
cling to
see
it. You
Israel's
must
missile
not
defense
let these
array
feelings
active
haunt you.
in Tel
Let them
Aviv.
go.
It
Let
was
me
used
go.
to shoot
I
down
love you.
some of the incoming fire in other parts of this country. Even as we speak right now, there are sirens that are sounding, and it really gives
He's
you a
gone.
sense of just how unpredictable
Get out
this
of here.
situation is. I want to just show you on my phone here. You can see the red alert system that Israel uses to update civilians that need to head to bomb shelters. And this is just the past few minutes of the red alerts that have been coming in across this country. In Dimona, where the nuclear facility is, the Dead Sea hotels, and other locations, like I said, including Jerusalem, the largest population center here. This is going to unravel very quickly. Israeli defense officials, according to our sources, continue to meet at the Kiryat, Israel's version of the Pentagon, just a few miles from here. They are preparing what the Israeli response will be. It is understood that Israel will respond to this attack by Iran, an unprecedented moment in the Middle East, a direct Iranian attack on Israeli territory in response to a strike earlier this month launched by Israel that killed 7 members of Iran's IRGC. Guys, back to you.
Trey, if I can follow up, you were reporting, I believe, just about 20 minutes ago that there may be an indication that this is going to be the extent of what's coming, that the matter may be concluded, according to some Iranian officials. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to read you a statement that was released by Iran's permanent mission to the UN. And it's a lengthy statement filled with some propaganda. So we'll get to the point here about what the Iranians are trying to get out to the world in terms of their messaging. There's one sentence that stands out from the statement provided by the Iranian government. And it's, quote, "The matter can be deemed concluded." And they are referring to this initial attack launched against Israel. Clearly, the Iranians are trying to contain what has just taken place and what continues, according to these alerts that I'm getting on my phone, to take place at this moment. And that is a massive, multifaceted attack against Israel. This is an attack that the Israelis and the Americans were prepared for. Earlier today, we understand there was a phone call between U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to try and understand what the joint response might be from the Americans and the Israelis to this attack. The intelligence on this case was spot on. The Israelis knew that Iran was going to attack. I've been speaking with defense officials from lower level intelligence all the way up to the defense minister over the past 48 hours to try to get an understanding of how the Israelis were preparing. Israel's air defense systems have been on high alert. This evening, Israel's Home Front Command, the organization within the military that is responsible for communicating with civilians, put out a message limiting public gatherings and also canceling all educational activities. And so Israel
Cheers,
was ready
boys.
for this attack. They wanted to walk a fine line, and the
Whoever's
line was
watching.
between keeping the public informed and prepared and ensuring that the public was not panicking. And so far, they have done that. We are in Israel's second largest city of Tel Aviv. Again, earlier we could see those interceptor rounds flying through the sky, off the skyline, towards some of those projectiles launched toward Israel. The public is calm. There have been no runs along the banks. There is no chaos in the streets. Simply instructions by the military for civilians in certain areas to stay near the bomb shelters. Understanding that what we are seeing right now is a massive attack against Israel. Territory. Remember, Iran has proxies across the Middle East that have been engaging Israel since the October 7th massacre. And while we talk
Get
tonight,
all
we
the
have to remember
pieces.
Israel has been
Yeah,
at war
I
for
stashed them in the
200
footlockers
days
all around camp.
in Gaza.
I bet the commander
As
makes
we're
a
talking right
150
now, you
laps
hear
this
Israeli
time.
jets overhead. They are ensuring that the airspace is defended above us right now.
Back to it.
And they know that there are threats from other proxies in the region that are directly funded and supported by the Iranian regime in Tehran. We are talking about two major proxies.
Did you find
that
something?
Is the Houthis in Yemen,
I can't believe
backed
it.
by Iran, and the Iran-backed
honor
Lebanese
is who
militant
I
group
am.
Hezbollah, that according to our
It's
sources
what I
has
am.
more than 100,000 rockets
A warrior
and
without
missiles,
her armor is
all
like a
aimed
bear
at
without
Israel.
claws.
And I can tell you, according to a source that I spoke with earlier today, Israel knew, especially with
Excellent.
the support of
I'm
the
ready.
United States, they would broadly be able to handle the initial Iranian wave that targeted their country tonight, the one that is unfolding right now as we speak. The biggest concern for Israel and its military tonight is the Iranian proxy Hezbollah in southern Lebanon that is prepared to attack if given the orders by Iran. They've already
No one wants her.
October 8th,
Leave her
launching
to
daily
suffer,
rockets and
wretched Lord
missiles into
Slade.
Israel. But again, they have precision-guided missiles that have the coordinates of the city that we're standing in dialed in, and on a moment's notice could launch another major attack. So Israel is bracing for the possibility of this situation to unravel. Guys.
An unprecedented situation. Excellent reporting. Stay safe. Turning slide force until we turn. Let's bring in now Mark Levin,
She's all
host
alone.
of Life Levin.
All alone in this.
Mark, thanks for taking time on this unprecedented event, joining us. What can you tell us? What is your reaction, your thoughts on what you're seeing play out on our TV screens?
Well, I'm not watching the TV screen. I'm here in Israel, and I'm in one of these rooms.
Watch your
in a
step.
hotel.
All the mining has made these tunnels unstable.
And I want the American people to understand something. Nobody's panicking here. These people are very, very strong. In fact, I'm sitting here pissed off. And I'm sharing that view with a lot of people. And so people need to understand that there is no panic in this country, at least from what I can see. The reason I'm down here in this fortified area now, this hotel, is because the Iron Dome intercepted 3 or 4 of these drones over Jerusalem, which is where we are. And they function perfectly. But the Israeli jets are flying around. I mean, they have been ready for this. They are ready for this. The people here are ready for this. But one of the things your analysts aren't mentioning, and I'm just saying this as an individual,
Abner Thorn,
keep
you
talking about
traitorous
Hezbollah and
bastard.
150,000
I should have expected to find you here.
Don't be a fool, Titanborn. I'm trying to help you. Your hatred poisons you. Warriors are like steel. When you lose your temper, you lose your worth.
Help me. You betrayed us all, then went back to licking Manny Marco's boot before the smoke cleared.
I did what I had to do. And as a show of my good intentions, I have a gift for you. But be warned, Cold Harbor will not give it up easily.
Is that? Sure, Bones, it is. Vestige, that's my battle axe.
He knows what's going on with Hezbollah in the north. They're not stupid. You also notice, but it's amazing, is the Gulf Arab states. They're not crawling with Iran. When you go to their states, so the Israelis can go in there and knock down as many of those missiles as they could, as well as the United States. You have a repeat from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the rest. They hate Iran. They hate these terrorists. They want them defeated too, even though they really can't say so. But all these intelligence activities are taking place between all these countries and really look at the region. It's almost all the Arab countries and the Jewish state and the United States. And then there's Iran and all of these terrorist groups that they funded. The American people need to understand when Donald Trump was president, Iran was incapable of doing this. Joe Biden went there, poured over $100 billion into Iran directly into investment in a failed appeasement policy. And we have paid for much of what's taking place right now, including with Hezbollah, including with Hamas, including with the Houthis, with American soldiers and sailors there. All in harm's way, magnificent red-blooded American heroes. None of it
think that's actually working? Is that resonating?
Oh, it's good to have you back. Are you thirsty for Daedric blood, old friend?
General King, I don't know if he'll air Sunday or not. He said something that was extraordinary.
My axe.
Contacts in the Central
Ah,
Command
it feels good to have it back.
coordinates with the
It's part of
Israelis and
me.
the others in the Middle
Losing
East
it
on
was
our
like
behalf.
losing an arm.
He said they recommended multiple times
I don't know.
to the White House.
I don't trust him, and I never will.
That they hit Iran, that they hit their refineries,
Blind
that they hit
hatred I
their,
felt when I saw him.
some of their missile sites and so
I could have
forth.
strangled him with my bare
Response to
hands.
endless terrorist
Now,
attacks against our troops, against
I think he
Israel
was
and
right.
so forth, to push them back.
That hatred was
That they know
poisoning
the
me.
mentality of the Iranians, that
Better.
they're slapped and
Stronger.
slapped down hard.
Almost whole again.
They quiet down for a
Isn't
while.
that strange?
But instead,
I feel
what the
powerful
Biden
enough to take on
administration has done
Umril the Unfeathered
is they've
himself.
attacked our allies
feel
openly,
like a
repeatedly,
warrior again.
effectively, publicly.
We're not done yet. We need to keep moving forward.
As far as I know, they don't
The
even have
passage is
all the
blocked by
Iron
a
Dome
rock
missiles,
slide.
because they were
Now
starting
that
to
I have
slow
my
off
axe
some of
back,
these.
I might be able
They
to
were
break through it.
investigating the Israeli company that provides an essential part for the Iron Dome. Joe Biden is a ping pong ball. He says, I support Israel, but what if Israel decides, we've had enough?
Stand back. No damn pile of pebbles is gonna stop me now.
And they keep kicking off our people left and right. You're right. Hezbollah has 150,000 missiles just supposed to sit here with the United States sit here. I suspect what the Biden keeps trying to figure out.
So many Daedric beasties, so little time. We need to keep moving.
Trying to figure out is how do we respond to this? Well, we have to keep looking over our shoulder. I think that's the big issue. Your experts have been fantastic. It's going to be limited. Others said this is the first wave. We don't know. I suspect the Israelis and the United States are pretty good handle on that.
Fuck, they're pretty big.
Look at what Jordan did. It shut down a terrorist state so the United States and Israel could do what it needed to do. And you look at how quiet all those Arab countries are. They're watching. They're rooting for Israel and the United States. Iran is trying to overthrow Jordan. Iran has taken over Iraq. Iran has taken over Yemen. Iran has taken over Lebanon. Iran is not interested in a two-state solution, a five-state solution. It's an Islamic fundamentalist regime. This is something Biden and Blinken and the other reprobates can't seem to get through their damn head. This is not a war about a two-state solution. It's a war that's even bigger than Israel. This is a war for the survivability of the planet and whether this planet is going to be mostly free or mostly tyranny. And Iran has gotten away with it over and over again. It is too bad that it falls to this little tiny country. You're trying to love them. And we will see how much Biden supports Israel. Oh, he'll support him in the first, week or so, but we'll see. Because he's a funny way of showing he says one thing, he does another. I just want to thank I want to thank the American Armed Forces. They are the best in the past. And I feel 100% secure for two of the greatest militaries on the face of the United States to be grounded.
And we know, Mark, that the U.S. has, now we have confirmed the U.S. has shot down some of these drones or missiles underway. Mark Levin, host of Life, Liberty, and Levin, joining us live on the phone from inside Israel. Mark, stay safe and keep us updated on anything you get from that. And thanks for joining us.
Go America, go Israel. God bless.
Couldn't be.
God bless. Coming up next, more on President Biden's response to the Iranian escalation.
What happened to you? What have they done?
Varys, I can see you. Are you really there?
Sai, it's me. We're seeing some kind of vision of you. Do you know where you are?
I don't know. They're torturing me. They want the amulet of kings. Want me to tell them where it's hidden. But I haven't broken. Not yet.
Sai, you need to hold on. We're going to find you. I'll make sure of it. We'll find you. Somehow we'll get you out of there.
Because we care too.
Sai? Sai! No! Bring him back, you bastards!
Chris Cunahan, our local leaf filter. So Chris, tell us how leaf filter is different from Auridon's gutter protection on the market.
That was no trick. That was Sai Sahan. Sai's a friend. Maybe my best friend. We need to find him and get him out of there.
It's a permanent solution. You'll never have to climb
We
a
need to
ladder
tell the
and clean
Prophet
out your
about
gutters
this.
again.
He'll know what
That's
to do.
amazing, Chris.
But
Tell me about
first,
the process.
we need to find a way
Simple
out of
and easy.
here.
Just give us a call,
I don't care
set up
what
an
else they throw at
appointment.
us.
We'll come out, give
Nothing's
you a
going to
free
keep me
gutter
from helping
inspection.
Asai.
If they're sagging, we'll repair them. If they're broken, we'll replace them. If they're in good shape, our local team will install leaf filter in as little as a few hours.
Wow, and I understand you guys have a lifetime no flaws guarantee.
We do. It's actually a lifetime no flaws guarantee.
You know, that's peace of mind and then some. So, how do people sign up?
To schedule your free inspection, call 833-LEAF-FILTER today. Our agent or visit leaffilter.com.
2-in-1 CoQ10 and Toxic Blood Pressure Control. We've got you covered. Thanks to the dual ingredients in Super Beats' most advanced heart chew yet. New Super Beats Advanced by Human. Now infused with CoQ10 plus the protein extract of the lab for your 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise. Why take a separate CoQ10 supplement? Enjoy twice the benefits with Super Beats, the #1 cardiologist recommended e-drink. Get a 3-month supply on all bundles at superbeatsadvanced.com.
Supporting Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. As Mike Johnson faces pressure to pass aid packages, how could it further divide the House chamber? Shannon breaks it all down on Fox News Sunday.
Something's wrong. All the doubt. Fear. Loneliness. It's all coming back. I have to push through this. Let's go. My fears are coming back, even stronger than before. It's the source of all my fears. I can hear it whispering to me, taunting me.
Eat me.
The whispering. It's gone. This whole time it was like watching myself from a distance. Disconnected. Now, this is the best I've felt in years. Like I've been reborn. And I owe it all to you. Thank you. Let's get out of here. We need to rest our side. Then we've got a world to save.
Homeland Security, Homeland Security, and also CIA directors, the National Security Council, basically all of the top brass of his cabinet as the U.S. watches this unfold and determines how it will counsel Israel in its response. Neither the U.S. nor Israel want to invite a wider war with Iran, but everyone is watching this message that Iran posted through
Yes,
its
I'm fine.
UN.
The vestige freed my mind from the dangerous control.
Thank the divine. Your loss would have thrown all of the cage.
They won't take me again. Not alive, at least. Prophet, Manamarco captured Sai Sahan. He's torturing him to find out where the Amulet of Kings is hidden. We have to rescue him.
It is a conflict between Iran and the rogue Israeli regime, which the U.S. must stay away from.
You brought Lyris back, and largely intact from the look of her.
How this is going
And
to
she would need time to recover. One does not leave such a place
the U.S. is
unscarred.
giving to Israel. Everybody is sort of watching to see what unfolds in the next few hours. We were told by the National Security Council that this is expected to unfold over several
I thought he had
hours.
firmly
At this
aligned
point, we don't
himself with
expect to hear
Manamarco
anything
and
from
his
the
worm
president. The
cult.
White House called the lid almost
Curious,
immediately after we
curious.
got here from Rehoboth. What that means is that we don't expect to see him publicly, but we do know he's
What
having
did he
that
say?
high-level meeting in the
Did
Situation
Sai tell you where he is being
We
held?
know that the U.S. is closely coordinating with the
Then we must
usual
locate him
allies
before
in the region
Manamarco
that we
forces
speak
him to reveal the
Jordan,
amulet's
for
hiding
instance,
place.
Egypt. A couple of days ago, as the U.S. was preparing for this, you had Secretary
I just saw in my
Blinken
visions
making phone calls
the
to
amulet's
China,
misuse
Turkey,
ripped the
and
hole
Saudi
in the
Arabia,
barrier
trying
that
to get
protects
their
Time
help
Real
in
from the
encouraging
forces of
Iran
oblivion.
not to
That
further
damage must be
escalate
undone,
anything
and
in
the amulet is the
the
key.
region. So
But
we
to
are
find the
awaiting
amulet,
any
we must first
comment from the
locate
president,
Saisahab.
on paper at least, that might
For
come
now you must
tonight,
lead
but
me to my
unlikely we're going to
meditation.
see him on
I
camera,
must
given
set
that
my
this will
mind to
all
the
be
task of
unfolding
locating
over
Saisahab.
the course of this evening, guys.
Until then, embrace the
It's
unknowable.
no doubt.
The
Obviously,
drops of
they
water
are
cannot
behind
know
closed
themselves to be
doors,
a
and you
river,
may not have
yet the river
gotten
flows
any
on.
reaction from anyone there. But is the White House aware, just here in the last few
Perhaps it was
moments,
simply
we're seeing
arrogance.
that House Majority
Perhaps it was
Leader
all part of his
Scalise
grand
is
scheme.
saying that they are
Who
going
can
to
know the
deviate
logic of a
from their
daydream prince?
regularly scheduled
I will call upon you
plans
again
and
when the time
legislative
is right.
agenda and go straight
Farewell, Vestige.
early in the week to funding aid to Israel in condemnation of Iran. Are they aware of this yet? And any reaction?
We don't have any reaction on that yet, and I wouldn't expect to necessarily get any tonight. I think that what we're going to first hear from the White House, and it will likely be on camera tomorrow after the U.S. has had a chance to assess the impacts here, is the U.S. support for Israel and what happens next. It's also going to be contingent upon what Israel sees as an appropriate response to the incoming that it's taking tonight. So on the legislative front, I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion about that as the beginning of the week unfolds. But this is pretty fresh. We haven't even seen the extent of the attack yet, or if it's going to have any sort of a second front from any proxy groups. The message from the UN seems to indicate, or the message from Iran's mission to the UN, rather, seems to indicate that they're saying that this is a one and done, and that they don't want to escalate this any further. I would note that what we're watching play out tonight was a slow-moving and highly telegraphed attack. The U.S. sent the CENTCOM commander all the way to Israel to coordinate with them on how we would jointly assess what should happen next, given the desire not to watch this escalate into a regional, further into a regional conflict. So this was something that Iran telegraphed early on, and it is a slow-moving situation that already the U.S. has had a chance to help Israel respond to, shooting down some of the incoming that's headed its way. But we haven't seen the end of it yet, guys.
Jackie Heinrich, live at the White House. Thank you so much. We're going to go back to Tel Aviv. Trey Yates is on the ground with the latest. Trey.
Yeah, hey, good evening. As we speak right now, I can hear a plane overhead. It's difficult to tell. It actually doesn't sound like a jet, indicating there's still some air activity. We've mostly heard military planes overhead as the Israelis are securing their airspace. In the distance, we also saw some of Israel's missile defense systems active as they intercepted the drones and missiles that crossed into Israeli airspace. We've got a lot of developments for you here, and that does sound like a fighter jet now. We got a lot of developments for you here, and I'm just going to take you through a few of them. This story is changing each and every minute. An unprecedented attack against Israel launched directly from Iranian territory. Israel's war cabinet tonight meeting at the Kiryat, Israel's version of the Pentagon, just a few miles from here, to determine the Israeli response. According to reports at this hour, the U.S. Embassy in Israel has directed all U.S. government employees and their families to shelter in place immediately. We also understand that U.S. jets have assisted
There you are,
the
Vestige.
Israelis in
Come to
downing
the
some of
harbour.
these drones
We must speak.
that were targeting their territory in this initial Iranian wave. Sirens just a few minutes ago were sounding across this country. Remember, Israel's Home Front Command, the military organization responsible for communicating with civilians here, had told people in the southernmost cities and northernmost cities to remain close to bomb shelters. Well, those instructions quickly were altered as the drones and missiles targeted cities across this country. There were explosions and interceptions in Israel's largest population center of Jerusalem. And some of that video is really significant and shows just how many Israelis were in shelters tonight. We're talking about more than 1 million people.
All right, excellent, guys. We'll continue this one next time. All right, peace out.
Unfolds, and again, at
All right,
this hour,
stop
it is not
streaming.
over, despite some of the comments that